All right, it is time for Nostradumbwes. We're making predictions for this week in Miami Heat basketball. David, let's get to our first game.
Yeah, it's fun. And just a reminder, also, by the way, that the Locked On Heat, Locked On Network, will be covering the NBA trade deadline better than anybody on Thursday, February 10th. I know a lot of people are worried about what's going to happen. We'll be debating that in the next segment as well. But remember, join Kim Becker, John Corrales, Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd, and NBA veteran Antonio Daniels to give you a player's perspective to get analysis of every blockbuster move as it happens. Make sure you subscribe on Locked On NBA YouTube and turn your notifications on so you know when they go live. But let's keep it going with some of these predictions. Only 3 games this week, so not a heavy workload for the Miami Heat, but that's okay. They could use a break. They're still continuing their long road trip, and they'll kick it off on Monday at Washington. They're at the nation's capital. And the question for you, Nostradamus, will Bradley Beal even play? And if he does it even matter?
So here we go. Bradley Beal is set to be reevaluated Tuesday. And so I would imagine that means he won't be playing in that game if he's going to be reevaluated. So to that point, no, I don't think Bradley Beal is going to play, which I want to talk about here in a minute, the Bradley Beal to Miami thing. But does it matter? I don't know that it matters because they're 1-2 without Bradley Beal so far, which is right about what they've been all season with Bradley Beal. They haven't been a particularly great team with Bradley Beal. After their, beginning of the season hot stretch, they've fallen off, and it's now to the point where people are debating whether or not they should trade Bradley Beal before the deadline and just hit this red button and blow the whole thing up, right? I don't know that it's going to matter. This team has not been very good over the last 15 games. They're 23rd in offensive rating, 20th in defensive rating. They stink, okay? And there's no reason why Miami, going into Washington now, even on the road, but with the rest that they have from Saturday to Monday, all these back-to-backs finally seem to be over. I think they'll be okay in that game. This is a game that they should handle, especially off the heels of a big momentum-gaining win against the Hornets there. So with that said, do we want to do the Beal thing right now? I don't know that we want to do Beal to Miami, but certainly if he's going to be reevaluated and not be at that game, if there was any recruitment going to be had, it's probably not going to be done on the court. I don't know. I don't know if
I think I speak for a lot of Heat fans when we're kind of just done with the whole talk about Bradley Beal, the kind of wishy-washiness. I think they're ready to move on from him. I think it's pretty apparent when you've got Montrezl Harrell saying this team effing sucks. The mood on this team effing sucks. We effing suck, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of losing, and they've got to blow it up. They just can't seem to figure it out. It's tough for first-year head coach Wes Unseld to try and get the most of that team. Remember back earlier in the season when the Wizards were atop the Eastern Conference? Yeah. Oh, that feels like an eternity ago.
They should blow it up. I really don't know what they're doing. I understand that you don't want to trade a franchise player.
Well, Beal can't be your best player on a team, and yet they don't have the right players surrounding him to complement what it is that he does. They're built badly. I mean, look at Miami, and I keep going back to this point. We've been saying it all season long. This is a team built to win. They've got the right players. They've got the right connection of players. They fit well. It's a seamless coalition there, And I just like the way this team is built. And you look at Washington, and it doesn't seem to make sense. I know they've had injuries just like everybody else, right? But Beal can't be your best player. He's no Jimmy Butler. But anyway, let's move on.
Just one last point on that, though. Like Tommy Shepard the other day said, we don't want to trade Bradley Beal because we don't want to start over. Well, you're 24-28, and you're out of the playoffs right now.
Time to start over, buddy.
You kind of already are starting over.
Right.
Like starting over from what? All right, go ahead.
Okay. All right, Thursday, still wrapping up the road trip here. The Heat will go into New Orleans. Who wins the battle of the boards against the Pelicans? Nostradamus.
So some stats here to begin. The Pelicans have been awesome as a rebounding team most of the season, but specifically in the last 15 games. The Pelicans rank 9th in overall rebounding percentage, 10th in offensive rebounding percentage, and 3rd in defensive rebounding percentage. We have seen at times the Heat struggle with teams that kill them on the boards, right? And you know how I feel about rebounding, but the stats are what the stats are this season. So Miami, over the last 15 games, have ramped it up a little bit. They're actually 7th in overall rebounding and 7th in offensive rebounding percentage. They're 18th in defensive rebounding percentage, which isn't great. But this is going to be, to me, where this game could be won or lost. If Miami doesn't have to win the battle of the boards necessarily, but they can't get destroyed. You obviously have Jonas Valanciunas in the middle for the Pelicans.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
averaging like 12 rebounds a game right now, and he's made almost a career of destroying the Miami Heat.
Hey,
So
he's in that Nikola Vucevic tier of destroying the Heat rebounding wise.
yes, if he ever gets traded to Orlando Magic, forget about it. But
Oh,
uh, um, but this is to me like the key battleground for this game. Again, the Heat don't have to win the rebounding board, but just keep it tight. Just keep it
right.
tight because Miami can win every other category. They just can't get blown
Right.
out here.
Yeah, no, and I'll go even a step further and say they're probably going to lose the battle just because Valanciunas just create such an incredible a disadvantage for the Heat. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter. This is a Pelicans team that just they don't have the energy to keep it going for 4 quarters, 48 minutes. They start off well. I could imagine that Miami will go in there, and as they have in the past, they'll play a little sloppy to start it off, and then the Pelicans will eventually fall apart. Miami will tighten up the things that they do well,
Yeah.
and eventually they'll be able to cruise to a
And
victory. So
they'll
that's
be well rested too because they obviously play in Washington on Monday and then they play in
3
New
days rest. Yeah.
Orleans on Thursday. So 3 days, but they'll come back to South Florida before they go to the Pelicans. So I know this is the last game of this road trip, but really they'll be back in Florida and then eventually go on to the road in New Orleans. Is at least that's what they're going to end up doing. So
Well, last game of the week on Saturday versus the Brooklyn Nets, a highly anticipated matchup, should be fun. And Nostradumbwes, who defends Kyrie Irving?
ah, that's a great question, David, because this isn't a straight up, hey, just have Kyle Lowry guard the other point guard, right? Anymore.
Yeah.
First of all, should be noted, James Harden's day to day right now. And we're recording this. I don't know if Brooklyn started playing yet, but he was questionable for tonight's game for the Nets. But he's been day to day. There's lingering injuries. Even if he does return to the lineup, he could be out of the lineup. He's been dealing with some lingering stuff lately. And this is also after the trade deadline.
Mm.
So maybe that's something to watch. Like, is James Harden even on the Brooklyn Nets by the time this game is played?
Ooh.
So, but the reason I bring up Harden is because if it's both Harden and Kyrie on the floor for Brooklyn, then you have some decisions to make if you're Miami, right? Because if you look at what they've done lately against top point guards, we used to talk. Remember with the whole Caleb Martin conversations guarding Damian
Sure.
Lillard, De'Aaron
Right.
Fox, Steph Curry. Well, lately that's been Jimmy Butler's job. And you look at the game in Charlotte, and he spent a majority of that game guarding LaMelo Ball. And
Yeah.
obviously other guys would get switched onto LaMelo because of the nature of
Sure.
Miami's defense, but it was mostly Jimmy Butler starting possessions. He played, he guarded LaMelo for 4 minutes in that game, which is a lot. That's a lot of time to guard one player.
Right.
So I think it'll be Jimmy Butler on
Mm.
Kyrie Irving. But again, if Harden is out there, I'm not sure what you do. Do you put Jimmy on Harden, knowing that Harden's going to want to try to get to the basket and muscle his way a little bit more, and you want Jimmy's size on Harden? And if you do that, they haven't been really putting Lowry on other quick twitch point guards this year. They're letting Lowry kind of hang and do other things. Do you put PJ Tucker on Kyrie Irving? What
Ooh.
do you do? Because Kevin Durant, by the way, is not. If you've been living under a rock or not paying attention to Brooklyn, he's not playing until after the All-Star break.
Right.
There again, you have some decisions to make.
I think, can you put Lowry on Harden? Can he match
Maybe,
up
yeah.
well? I
That
could
might be the
see
move.
him.
And then Jimmy on
Yeah.
Kyrie.
Yeah, I could see the strength, the wily nature of Lowry. And it'll be an interesting contrast there between, like, flop artists, let's say. I mean, Harden's going to
Yes.
throw his arms up in the air, and Kyle's going to go get set back 5 feet as a result.
Oh my
Who
God. If
gets the
Lowry
foul
is
call?
guarding Harden, Lowry will be ejected by like the 5-minute mark of the first quarter with 2 technicals. Like, it'll be over.
We'll see. It should be fun. I
How's
don't
that
know.
for
I
a
don't know.
project? Let's do that. Kyle Lowry will get at least 1 technical against the Brooklyn Nets. Guaranteed.
That is the
Go to
softest end of a prediction
betonline.net
I've
to
ever
bet
heard.
on it. It's done.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's a sucker's bet. I can't believe that. Come on, we got bet. Go all the way, man. Is he going to get ejected against
That's
the
the one.
Nets?
The over-under's at 1.5 technicals, and you might want to take the over on that.
All right. Well, we'll debate some of the top questions surrounding the Miami Heat in the next segment, so make sure you stay for that. But first, a reminder that this show is brought to you by BetOnline, and they've got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football continues its march to the playoffs, right to the big game in a couple weeks, BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season's podcast too. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, the NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. Bet online, where the game starts.